Hey everyone, welcome back to Skip or Buy, Here is Why. This is a channel where we break down the latest games so you don't have to waste your cash. And today on the menu is Marvel's Spider-Man 2, specifically the fresh PC release. I want to find out if this is the web-slinging masterpiece we've been waiting for, or did it get tangled in its own hype? Stick around to find out whether this is a buy or if it's a skip. And hey, remember, drop me a comment if you played the game already. Are you loving it, or did it leave you stuck in a glitchy mess? As always, I like to start off with my first impressions and talk a bit about the story. Spider-Man 2 picks off where the previous games left off, where as usual, Peter is juggling life and all the responsibilities he has. And then there is Miles, Kraven the Hunter, and of course Venom, because what's a Marvel story without a bad guy? So there's a lot that fans of the Spider-Man games will recognize, but if you haven't played the earlier games, you might feel lost. This isn't a standalone story, it builds heavily on past events. So the first piece of advice I'd like to give is that if you're new to the game, then consider playing the first two before jumping into this one. Let's talk a bit about the presentation. Having played the game on PlayStation, I can say this game was a visual knockout. On PC, it's more complicated. When everything runs well, it's absolutely stunning. It has fluid animations, gorgeous lighting, and incredible detailed characters. And then there are loads of cutscenes, and most of them are top tier. And the voice acting? Absolutely great. So yeah, I can hear you think, what are you complaining about? So far so good, right? Well, the PC release has its problems. There are crashes, FPS drops and graphical glitches. Speaking for myself, I have a quite high-end rig, but even that one struggled. Some patches hopefully will help in the future, but right now performance is way too unpredictable. And now let's talk about what makes this game fun. That's the gameplay. If you've played the first Spider-Man games, you'll feel right at home. Swinging through the city is a joy, as always, and web wings make traversal even faster. And then we have the combat, which really felt familiar to me, but they managed to refine it a bit more. Parries add depth, and each Spider-Man has unique abilities. Miles with Venom powers, Peter with the symbiote. And as for any game, this one isn't different. Smacking bad guys around never gets old. They've added some new enemy types which force you to switch your strategies. But in all honesty, if you were expecting a revolutionary change, I think you will be disappointed. So in that sense, it's more like an evolution. There's nothing groundbreaking happening here. Stealth remains basic, perch takedowns, webbing enemies up, you know the drill. But let's talk about where things get a little bit messed up. This game is an open world game and it's huge, but does it mean that it is better? While I was playing around, roaming through the city of New York, sure I felt it was bigger, but I didn't felt like it was more engaging. Side activities are standard open world fare, photo ops, crimes and collectibles. And some stories are really good and some have really funny twists. But overall, again, it's nothing groundbreaking. Sure, I have to admit I was a bit spoiled after playing Cyberpunk and Red Dead Redemption 2, but even so, I was hoping for a more reactive world. You know, something like more dynamic civilians, or maybe some more engaging and thrilling side missions. You know, something to make New York feel alive. But for me it felt the game is playing it safe here.
Sandman!
I always hated that name.
I know you're angry at me!
This has nothing to do with you. Leave me alone!
I want to help you! But it's gonna hurt first. to reconnect. Yeah, he's not really the nostalgic type.
Okay, so we talked about the things that work well in the game and we talked about stuff that didn't work well in the game. So now it's time to ask ourselves that question. Is it a skip or is it a buy? Let's break it down. I'd consider buying it if you love the first two games and you want more of the same kind of action. The combat, web slinging and story are basically copy and paste, and it's what made the previous games great. And you might also consider getting it if you're cool with a familiar but still fun combat system. It does have a few new enemy types, it has some new moves and some new exciting abilities that will make the fights dynamic and will bring something new to the table. And if you got a high-end PC, it could be worth a try. You have to wait around a bit for new patches to be implemented because the performance issues are really tearing the game apart. But when it runs smoothly, it's really one of the best superhero experiences out there. But unfortunately for me personally, and maybe for you too, there are some things which make me think, should I skip this game altogether? If you're expecting a radically different experience from the previous games, then you might consider skipping this one because it sticks to the same formula with only a few new refinements. And like I said before, the world is big and it may be too big for some people, especially when you throw in all the repetition and the generic side content. And if you didn't like all the collection chores from the past game, this might not be something you will appreciate in this game either. And unfortunately this game isn't kind on not so powerful PCs. So if you don't have a big rig and you aren't willing to deal with bugs, crashes and frame drops, I would for certain skip this game, because performance is way too inconsistent and lower end systems will struggle. And I don't know, maybe you haven't played the two other games before, and if you did not, this is not a great jumping in point. The story builds heavily on previous events, and I found that it's way harder to understand and way less impressive if you haven't played those other games. And that is all that I'd like to share about this game with you guys. But now it's your turn. What do you think? Have you played it? And if so, did it run smoothly for you? Or was it a buggy mess? So either way, whether you played the game or you haven't played the game yet, please drop me a comment below and let's talk about it. And of course, as always, if you like this review, please consider subscribing to my channel for more deep dives into the latest games. Thank you all for watching and see you the next time.